The pale gray sky hung low over the mystery machine as the wind howled like a mournful echo from another time. The road winding down to the icy port was narrow and pocked with frozen potholes. Inside the van, tension filled the cabin. Shaggy gripped the steering wheel tightly, though his knees visibly trembled. Scooby sat beside him, front paws clinging to the seat, eyes darting nervously out the window as if expecting something to leap from the fog at any moment. Like. You think this is just some crazy rumor, right? Shaggy asked, trying to sound casual. Rurto, Raggy, Scooby replied, chewing half-heartedly on a slightly melted chocolate bar. Fred sat in the front, flipping through an ancient, yellowed map. Daphne typed away on her tablet, though there was no signal, no Wi-Fi, no GPS, nothing. Velma, sitting in the back with her glasses slightly askew, was deep into a thick book titled Mysteries of the Arctic. Its cover showed an island wrapped in mist, surrounded by broken clocks. This says the last recorded sighting of Cryo Island was over 100 years ago, she read aloud. And that anyone who ever landed there, vanished. No one ever returned. Shaggy swallowed hard, doing his best not to let go of the shaking steering wheel. Oh yeah, super cool. Totally normal stuff. When they finally reached the frozen little port, the boat captain was already waiting. He was tall and silent, dressed in what looked like a coat made of polar bear fur. He didn't speak much, just handed them life jackets and pointed toward the old ship docked nearby. It looked like a relic, but sturdy enough to brave the icy waters. The trip to the island was eerily quiet. The sea was unnaturally still, almost mirror-like. No birds sang, no fish leapt. It was as if nature itself was holding its breath. Fred kept scanning the horizon while Daphne snapped photos of nothing in particular, hoping for signs of movement or life. Velma kept her eyes on the map. If the records are right, we should be approaching the southern coast, she said. But this position, it doesn't match modern charts. It's like the island has moved. Shaggy's eyes widened. Like, is that even possible? No one answered. As they neared the island, they saw the village. Low buildings coated in ice, white rooftops untouched, empty streets. Everything seemed frozen in time. The windows were dark, yet somehow felt like they were watching. They stepped onto the abandoned dock. Fred was the first to speak. Strange, no footprints, no sign of recent life. Daphne took a few pictures. In the images, shadows flickered behind the windows. She blinked, thinking it was just a reflection. Cautiously, they walked toward the central square. There stood a frozen fountain, and next to it, a statue of a man wearing a bowler hat, except it wasn't stone. His eyes glowed with a cold blue light. Scooby barked. The figure didn't move. Velma approached carefully. It's like, he's trapped in time, she whispered. She touched the sleeve of his coat. A thin layer of ice cracked, revealing something beneath, a modern wristwatch, ticking silently at 3:17. Shaggy's eyes went wide. Like, is he alive? Just then, a noise came from atop the cliff. Something big was moving. The sound echoed across the mountains, like distant thunder muffled under snow. Fred tightened his grip on the map. We need answers, he said firmly. Before they could take another step, Velma opened the leather-bound diary she had found tucked inside the man's satchel. The pages were brittle with age, but the first line glowed faintly in the dim light, every treasure has its price. Then, slowly, new words began to appear. Written in real time, as if someone, or something, were watching them. You're not the first to come looking, the text formed letter by letter. But you might be the last. A sudden gust of wind blew through the square, rattling shutters and sending a shiver through their bones. Scooby yelped. Fred glanced at the others. No turning back now, he said. The group stood in uneasy silence after the eerie message appeared in the diary. The wind had died down, but the air still carried a chill that went deeper than just the cold, a bone-deep sense that something unnatural was at work. "We should split up," suggested Fred, adjusting his scarf and glancing around the frozen village square. "If this place really is frozen in time, we might find clues about what's keeping it that way." Daphne nodded, her breath visible in the frigid air. "And maybe find someone, or something, that can explain what happened here." Velma flipped through the diary again, but no more words appeared. She tapped her fingers against the leather cover thoughtfully. "I'm taking this with me. If it keeps updating, it might give us more answers." Shaggy tugged at his collar nervously. Do we have to split up?" "Because I was thinking, Scooby and I could stick together, and you guys go off and do your smart person stuff." Scooby gave a muffled bark from behind his paws. "Yeah, Reich rowing Roff alone." Fred smirked slightly. "We'll all stay close. Just explore different parts of town." They divided into two groups. Fred and Daphne took the northern side of the village, while Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby headed south. As they walked, the eerie stillness pressed in around them. There were no birds, no insects, just the soft crunch of snow underfoot and the occasional groan of shifting ice. In the southern district, Velma examined the buildings closely. "Look at this," she said, pausing near a cafe window. Inside, people sat frozen mid-conversation. One man held a coffee cup halfway to his mouth, steam forever trapped in suspension like a photograph caught in time. "Tipo, isso é assustador," Shaggy muttered, shivering. "Not just creepy," Velma replied, adjusting her glasses. "It's impossible. Steam doesn't freeze like that, it should have dissipated long ago. This isn't natural ice. It's almost like some kind of preservation field." Scooby sniffed the glass cautiously. He sneezed. "Ruo." Meanwhile, Fred and Daphne entered what looked like an old post office. Letters sat untouched on desks, pens poised above paper as if the writers would return any second. Dust had settled lightly over everything, but nothing seemed decayed or broken. It was like stepping into a museum exhibit that had gone forgotten for decades. Daphne picked up a newspaper dated March 1927. Her voice was hushed. This place wasn't just abandoned. It was, paused. Fred found a map pinned to the wall. It showed the entire island, with one area circled heavily in red ink. "There's something out there," he said, tracing the mark with his finger. "We need to check it out." Back with Velma's group, Scooby suddenly froze mid-step. His ears twitched. "What's wrong, Scoob?" Shaggy asked. Scooby pointed toward the alley between two buildings. A figure stood there. Tall, thin, and wrapped in a heavy coat covered in frost. But it wasn't just standing. It was watching. Velma squinted, stepping closer. "That's not one of the frozen townspeople," that one moved. The figure tilted its head slightly, then turned and vanished into the shadows without a sound. "We're not alone here," Velma said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. A gust of wind swept through the alley, carrying with it a faint metallic scent, like ozone after a lightning strike. "Tipo. Vamos voltar para onde os outros estão," Shaggy suggested, already backing away. Just then, Velma's hand brushed against the brick wall beside her. Beneath the layer of frost, she felt something warm. She pulled back in surprise. "Guys, this wall is heated." Before they could investigate further, a sudden tremor passed beneath their feet. Not strong enough to knock them over, but noticeable. The ground was reacting to something. Back at the post office, Fred and Daphne felt the same tremor. Papers fluttered slightly, though there was no breeze. "This place is responding to us," Daphne realized. "Or, to something we're doing." Fred looked at her, eyes narrowing. "Then we'd better figure out what before it decides we don't belong here." The group regrouped in the village square. Their breaths came out in soft clouds and the silence between them was thick with unease. "We saw someone," Velma said, voice low but firm. "Or something. It wasn't frozen like the others, it moved." Fred frowned, glancing at Daphne. "We felt something too. A tremor. Like the island reacted to us being here." Daphne held up the newspaper she had found. "This is from March 1927. Look at this headline, 'Mysterious Disappearances Continue at Cryo Island.' There's mention of a place called the Eternal Vault. People came here looking for it. And then, they vanished." Shaggy swallowed hard. "The Eternal Vault? What kind of vault is that?" Velma adjusted her glasses, eyes scanning the text carefully. "Could be a myth. Or it could be real. Either way, someone went to great lengths to hide it. Maybe even erase it from history." Fred pulled out the map he had taken from the post office. "There's a marked location here, deep in the northern cliffs. If there's a vault or lab, that's probably where it is." "Then let's go find it," Daphne said. The path to the cliffs was treacherous. Snow-covered rocks jutted out like broken teeth, and the wind howled through narrow passages like a living thing. Scooby barked nervously as they climbed higher, his paws slipping more than once on the icy ground. After nearly an hour of careful ascent, they reached a cave entrance half buried in snow and ice. Strange symbols were carved into the stone above it, some ancient, others disturbingly modern. "This isn't just a natural cave," Velma observed, brushing frost off one of the markings. "It was built. Or modified by someone who knew what they were doing." Inside, the air was warmer than expected. Ice coated the walls, but beneath it, metal panels gleamed faintly under their flashlights. The deeper they went, the more obvious it became, they were inside something artificial. "This looks like a laboratory," Fred said quietly, running a hand along a frozen pipe embedded in the wall. He looked down and noticed something strange, footprints. Fresh ones. Half melted, but unmistakably human. Daphne followed his gaze and whispered, "Someone's been here recently." They passed through a heavy door covered in frost. Inside was a large chamber filled with strange machines, some still humming softly despite the decades, or centuries, that must have passed. Daphne touched a dusty console. Lights flickered on. A screen blinked to life with static, then displayed a single word, "Welcome." Everyone froze. Velma stepped closer, brushing off dust. This tech shouldn't still be working. Unless, she paused, eyes narrowing. Unless it's been maintained. Someone's still using this lugar. A low hum filled the room as the machines powered up further. One by one, lights turned on, casting eerie shadows across the chamber. Then, a voice crackled from a speaker overhead. Cold, mechanical, and oddly familiar. "You've arrived later than expected. But you're not the first. Nor will you be the last." Scooby yelped and dove behind Shaggy. Fred stepped forward. "Who are you? What happened here?" The voice paused, as if considering. Then it answered, "Time is not what you think. And the Eternal Vault holds more than treasure. It holds truth." Before anyone could ask more, the lights suddenly flickered wildly, and then everything went dark. A moment later, emergency lights kicked in, bathing the room in a dim red glow. From somewhere deeper na caverna, a low grinding sound echoed, like gears waking up after a long sleep. "We should move," Fred said. "Whatever is down here, it knows we're here now." Velma looked back at the screen. The message had changed. "Proceed to Sector 9. Shaggy gulped. "Tipo, vocês viram isso, certo? Tipo, neo eso eu." Scooby nodded quickly. "Yeah. Rector Niner." Velma studied the map again. "Sector 9 is marked here, it's deeper underground. If this facility was designed to contain whatever the Eternal Vault is, then that's where we'll find answers. Fred tightened his grip on the flashlight. Then let's go. As they made their way down a narrow corridor, the walls began to change. The ice thinned. Exposed wiring ran along the ceiling. Some of it sparked occasionally, sending small bursts of blue light into the darkness. Suddenly, Scooby stopped. His ears twitched. "What is it, Scoob?" Shaggy asked, already trembling. Scooby pointed ahead. There, from the shadows, another figure emerged, tall, wrapped in a heavy coat, face obscured by frost. It didn't move like the frozen townspeople. It watched them. Waited. Then, slowly, it raised a gloved hand, and pointed down the corridor. Fred exchanged a glance with Daphne. "Well," she said quietly, "at least it's not trying to hurt us. Yet." The group stood frozen, not from the cold, but from the presence of the figure before them. It didn't move like the others they had seen in the village. This one was different. Alert. Watching. Then, just as slowly as it had appeared, the figure turned and disappeared into the corridor beyond, its heavy boots making no sound against the icy floor. Fred tightened his grip on his flashlight. "We follow." "No way," Shaggy whispered, eyes wide. "Like, no way, man." Scooby whimpered and clung to Shaggy's leg. "Rua. Arno rowing Ralone." Velma adjusted her glasses. "If that person, or whatever it is, knows something about this place, we can't afford to lose them." Daphne nodded. "And Sector 9 might hold the answers we need. We came here for the truth. Let's find it." They moved forward, deeper into the facility. The corridor narrowed and the air grew heavier. Ice lined the walls, but beneath it, metal panels glowed faintly with embedded circuitry. The further they went, the more the temperature dropped, not just from the environment, but from something else entirely. Something unnatural. After a few minutes of tense silence, the corridor opened into a large chamber. Rows of glass pods lined the walls, each containing a human figure suspended in ice. Some wore early 20th century clothing, while others were dressed in uniforms far more modern. Shaggy pointed at one of the pods. "Tipo, esteo todos congelados." Velma stepped closer, studying the readings on a nearby console. Her breath caught. "They're not dead. They're in stasis." Fred looked around. "This isn't just a lab. It's a prison." Daphne scanned the room, her voice barely above a whisper. "Or a vault." A sudden noise broke the silence, the distant hum of machinery coming back online. Lights flickered overhead, then stabilized. A terminal nearby blinked to life, displaying a series of data points and status updates. Velma rushed over and began tapping at the interface. Lines of text scrolled by too quickly to read, until one line froze on the screen: Subject 017, status, stable. Neural activity detected. She gasped. Someone's still conscious in there. Before anyone could respond, a deep mechanical groan echoed through the chamber. One of the pods began to glow. Frost cracked and fell away as the seal released with a hiss. The figure inside shifted. Everyone took a step back. The pod door slid open. Inside stood a man, tall, thin, with sharp features and piercing blue eyes. His skin was pale, almost translucent, and his lips were slightly blue from the cold. He wore a long coat made of thick wool, covered in frost. He blinked once. Then again. Slowly, he stepped out. His voice was hoarse, barely more than a whisper. "You found me." Shaggy gulped. "Tipo, que me voce?" The man looked around the room, his gaze lingering on the other pods. "I am Dr. Elias Vorn. I was the lead scientist on the Project Eternity." Velma's eyes widened. Project Eternity? That's what this place is called. Vorn nodded. We tried to control time. To preserve moments, freeze history, even protect knowledge from destruction. But we went too far. Daphne leaned forward. What happened? Vorn's expression darkened. The machine worked, too well. We created a field that stopped time itself. But it spread. Faster than we expected. It trapped everyone on this island. Except those who resisted it. Fred frowned. Resisted how? Vorn gestured toward himself. By staying connected to the machine. By becoming part of it. Shaggy stared. Você vai repartir uma máquina do tempo? Tipo, isso é possible. Vorn gave a grim smile. Possible? Yes. Safe? No. Suddenly, another tremor shook the chamber. The lights flickered again. From deeper within the facility, an alarm began to blare. Vorn's eyes snapped toward the sound. They've awakened. Velma asked quickly, who has? Vorn turned to face them fully. The ones who tried to stop us. The ones who failed. A low growl echoed down the corridor. Something was coming. The growl echoed through the corridor again, deeper this time, almost guttural. It wasn't human. Vorn's expression hardened. We need to move. Now. Fred grabbed Daphne's arm. Where to? Vorn pointed down a side passage. There's an access tunnel that leads to the central control room. If we can reach it, we might be able to contain the breach. Shaggy swallowed hard. Tipo, ok exatamente vai ser dessa brecha. Vorn didn't answer. He just started walking fast. The group followed, boots echoing against the icy floor. The lights flickered overhead as another tremor shook the facility. Scooby barked and glanced behind them. From the darkness of the corridor they had just left, something moved. Ruo, he muttered. They picked up speed, rounding a corner just as the sound of shattering ice filled the air behind them. A massive shape burst from the shadows, tall, humanoid, but made entirely of jagged, blackened ice. Its eyes glowed with a cold blue light, and its limbs cracked and shifted like frozen branches in the wind. Scooby screamed and ran ahead. Shaggy followed close behind. Tipo, eu neo queria estar aqui. Fred turned back, shielding Daphne as the creature let out a low, rumbling growl. Velma studied it quickly. It's not just made of ice, she said. It's alive. Or, something is using it. Vorn raised a gloved hand toward the beast. It's one of them. One of the ones who tried to stop us. Daphne's voice was tight. And failed? Vorn nodded grimly. Now they're bound to the machine. Trapped between time. They hunt anyone who comes too close to the truth. The creature lunged. Fred pulled Daphne aside just in time. The impact sent a shockwave through the corridor, cracking the walls and sending shards of ice flying. We have to keep moving. Vorn shouted. Velma grabbed Fred's arm. We can't outrun it forever. We need a plan. Vorn led them into a narrow stairwell that spiraled downward. The walls here were warmer, covered in thick cables and pulsing lights. The temperature dropped rapidly as they descended. This is the core level, Vorn explained. The heart of the Project Eternity. Shaggy looked around nervously. Tipo, esse isso é o coração, onde está o cerebro. Velma's eyes widened. The Eternal Vault. Daphne caught on. If we can get inside, maybe we can shut this thing down. Vorn hesitated. The vault was sealed for a reason. What's inside isn't just knowledge or technology. It's power. Dangerous power. The creature above roared again, shaking the ceiling. Snow and dust rained down. Fred tightened his grip on his flashlight. Then we don't have a choice. We go in. Vaughn gave a reluctant nod. Follow me. He led them down the last few steps into a massive chamber. At its center stood a towering structure of glass and metal, glowing faintly with a pulsing blue light. Around it, ancient runes were carved into the stone floor, markings of containment. Velma stepped forward. This is it. The Eternal Vault. As they approached, the vault door began to glow. Symbols lit up in sequence. Then, with a deep mechanical groan, the doors started to open. From behind them, the ice creature reached the bottom of the stairs. And then, everything changed. The vault door groaned open, revealing a chamber bathed in cold blue light. Inside, a crystalline core pulsed slowly at the heart of the machine, like a frozen heartbeat. The walls were lined with ancient controls and glowing panels, some covered in frost, others still active. But there was no time to admire it. The icebound creature roared behind them, its jagged limbs cracking as it charged forward. Move! Fred shouted. Everyone scrambled into the vault chamber. Dar! Elias Vaughn rushed to the central console, brushing away frost and tapping at the controls. This is where the entire system is controlled, he said, voice tight. If we can shut it down properly, we might be able to reverse the freeze. Velma looked around frantically. And if we don't? Vaughn didn't answer. He didn't have to. The creature slammed against the vault's outer wall, sending shockwaves through the room. Ice cracked. Wires snapped. Sparks flew. Daphne grabbed Velma's arm. Can you help him? Velma nodded and ran to the console. Lines of text scrolled across the screen too fast to read. She adjusted her glasses. This interface is a mix of old and new tech. It's like someone kept updating it over decades. Fred turned to Shaggy and Scooby. You two find something, anything, we can use to slow that thing down. Shaggy gulped. Tipo, como okay. Cicada de Cabello Industrial? Scooby barked. Roar maybe a space heater. They scanned the room and spotted a row of emergency thermal units mounted near the ceiling, designed to melt ice blockages in case of system failure. Shaggy grinned. Like, perfect. With a boost from Scooby, Shaggy climbed up and yanked one free. Sparks flew as he pulled the unit's wiring loose. Hold this, he yelled, tossing it to Scooby. Together, they aimed the exposed wires at the creature. Now! Shaggy shouted. They fired. A blast of heat erupted from the makeshift weapon, striking the creature square in the chest. Steam exploded outward as the ice began to melt, just for a second. It screamed, staggering back. Yes. Daphne cheered. It works. But the victory was short-lived. The creature recovered quickly, roaring louder than before. Its body began to shift, reshaping itself with terrifying speed. It's adapting, Velma realized. Back at the console, Vaughn's fingers flew across the controls. I found the failsafe. But I need more time. Fred gritted his teeth. We don't have more time. Velma glanced at the pulsing crystal core. What if we destabilize the energy source instead? Force a shutdown. Vaughn's eyes widened. That could work, but it'll be dangerous. Fred stepped forward. Then we do it together. Velma handed him a stabilizer rod from the console. Insert this into the core's base. It should disrupt the flow. Fred nodded and sprinted toward the center of the chamber. The creature saw him and lunged. Daphne tackled it from the side, shouting, "Hey! Over here!" It swiped at her, but she rolled away just in time. Scooby and Shaggy fired another blast, slowing it again. Fred reached the core. He drove the rod into the base. The effect was immediate. Light flared from the crystal. The entire chamber trembled. Alarms blared. A deep hum filled the air as the pulse quickened. Vorn shouted, "Everyone, get back." The group scrambled toward the exit as the vault began to collapse inward. The ice creature let out a final, ear-splitting roar before shattering into 1,000 pieces. A final shockwave rippled through the facility. Then silence. Outside, snow fell gently. The sky had cleared. And for the first time since arriving, the island felt normal. Velma checked the readings on her handheld scanner. The temporal field is gone. Everyone trapped here. They're waking up. Fred looked around. Even him. They turned. Dr. Vorn was gone. All that remained was a small note left on the console: "Some truths must remain buried." Shaggy whistled. Tipo, EU Prefiro Neo Saber. Scooby nodded. "Yeah. Roar now." As they walked back toward the village, the sun rose over the horizon. For the first time in over a century, time moved forward. In the distance, the frozen fountain in the town square melted drop by drop. A clock tower nearby ticked once. Then again. Life was returning. And though the mystery was solved, a shadow of something deeper lingered, a warning written in ice and time.